Picture billions of silent green bodies weaving light into sugar, sensing the faint crunch of a caterpillar, sending fragrant warnings on the breeze. Just last year, scientists slipped tiny microphones among leaves and heard ultrasonic clicks, the thirst calls of trees, proof that a forest can whisper its needs. But you need no lab tonight. Only your breath. Only the gentle thrum within your chest, beating beside a cedar older than empires. So dim the lights. Let a fan murmur like distant rain. If you wish, share your place on the map and the hour that finds you listening. It's comforting to know where we gather under this vast, sleepy canopy. And if this slow journey feels like shelter, a soft tap on subscribe helps these bedtime wanderings reach more drifting minds. Close your eyes if you like. Feel roots lace the earth beneath your imagination. Every seed is a patient clock. Every leaf a quiet lung. Together we will listen. Imagine a single seed, no larger than the tip of your finger. Dull brown, wrinkled, silent. It tumbles in the palm of an archaeologist deep beneath desert ruins. A seed that once fell in the time of Herod, 2,000 winters ago. For 20 centuries it waited, buried in drifted sand, sealed in cool darkness, listening to the slow heartbeat of the earth. You might think waiting is nothing, but in the quiet chemistry of a seed, waiting is art. Inside that hard shell, sugars glass themselves into crystals. Water slips away, molecule by molecule, until life is folded into a paper-thin memory. A scroll of instructions so delicate it can only be read by rain. Proteins curl like tight fists, ready to open the moment warmth returns. In 2005, a botanist laid that ancient date seed. They called him Methuselah, onto a bed of modern soil. A sip of water, a hush in the greenhouse. Weeks passed, then a crack soft as a sigh. A pale root traced downward like a question mark. Green split skyward. 2 millennia of sleep lifted in a single breath of light. How does a seed know when to wake? It listens to moisture on its coat, to warmth creeping through its starches, to a faint shift in daylight that even closed shells can sense. Scientists call this dormancy cycling, a slow ticking clock inside living stone. In 2024, researchers at the Svalbard Global Seed Vault announced something wondrous. Barley seeds stored for 30 years still sprouted strong, their DNA largely untouched. It seems a seed writes time in pencil, erasable until the first drop of spring. Picture every field you've ever driven past. Golden swells under a late summer sky. Beneath that waving sea are billions of sleepers, each cradling the pulse of tomorrow's forest. Meadow gardens, even weeds between city bricks. Waiting is their wisdom, patience their defense against a chaotic planet. What lessons lie in that patience? Perhaps that life is not always a forward march. Sometimes it is a quiet holding, a breath saved for better weather. You too carry seeds of plans and hopes, tucked deep where time can't spoil them. They will wake when the season is right. Now let your own breath slow. Feel how the chest rises, pauses, settles. A rhythm not so different from a seed's long sleep and sudden bloom. Outside your window, night presses gently on roof and tree. Somewhere under moonlit soil, 1,000 embryos listen. testing the dark for hints of dawn. In this hush, you may hear them, not with ears, but with that soft interior sense that knows the difference between hurry and growth. Trusted. Let patience root in you. Feel time loosen its grip, like sand slipping through slow, steady fingers. When you are ready, drift deeper. The next breath may feel lighter, as though a shell has cracked within you, and something small, green and certain has begun to reach for light. That isn't even here yet, only promised. Breathe in, slow and easy. Notice how the cool air settles across your tongue, just as a leaf settles sunlight into sugar. The seed we watched awaken is no longer alone. Now roots push into soil, threads of pale possibility. And where roots wander, conversations begin. Imagine the darkness beneath a meadow, a damp, hidden library of scent and sound, though not the sounds we hear with ears. These are whispers in molecules. A willow wounded by a hungry beetle releases a faint, bitter perfume. Carried on the breeze, it reaches the leaves of willow neighbors. They taste that warning, shift their chemistry, and thicken the sap that flows inside their veins. No voice, no eyes, yet a message is delivered, clear as a bell rung in green silence. Scientists call these airborne notes volatile organic compounds, tiny parcels of carbon and fragrance, light enough to float, potent enough to nudge a forest awake. In 2025, a research team in Kyoto traced a single whiff of methyl jasmonate from a damaged tomato plant through an entire greenhouse. Within hours, untouched plants up to 10 meters away had switched on defense genes, arming themselves against attackers they had never felt. It is warning as anticipation, an invisible email system older than mammals. Beneath your feet lies another channel, quieter, deeper. Picture soil as twilight dusted with gold filaments. These are fungal threads, mycorrhizae, so fine they slip between grains of sand. They lace oak to maple, pine to berry bush, forming what botanist Suzanne Simard once called the wood wide web. When a tree in shade lacks sugar, its roots send out soft pulses of need. Fungi relay that signal to a sunlit sister, who releases a trickle of glucose in return. Trade routes open. Life flows. You might wonder, why would one tree feed another? Because the forest is more than a crowd. It is an orchestra. To keep the music unbroken, each musician must breathe. Even the lonely houseplant on your window ledge extends silent questions through pots of soil and clay. Give it a companion, and the roots will explore for touch, exchanging minerals, sharing tiny electric murmurs, like fingers brushing in the dark. Researchers measured those electrical flickers, called action potentials, and found rhythms familiar to our own nerve impulses, though slower, steadier, like thoughts spoken underwater. Next time you crush a sprig of mint, and the cool aroma unfurls, know that you have eavesdropped on its vocabulary. The scent that pleases us began as a warning to nibbling insects. I am sharp, I am unkind to your stomach, find sweeter pastures. Yet to bees, a different note rings out, a sugared invitation carried on shimmering wings. One fragrance, two meanings, depending on the ear that listens. Pause for a moment. Let the room fill with the hush of growing things. Can you sense it? The quiet traffic of molecules coursing around you. Every breath you release carries carbon a leaf might later drink. Every exhale becomes a letter in the green language of dawn. Feel your ribs widen, then fold. Inside that simple motion lies an answer plants already know. All life is exchange. Give, receive, transform, return. There is no true silence under the sun. Only conversations too slow for hurried minds. Allow that slowness to soak into your muscles. Let your thoughts drift down, like a root following the cool promise of water. Somewhere a sapling shivers with new resolve, having tasted a warning on the wind. Somewhere else a cedar hums content, sharing sugars through a net of silver fungus. Rest with them in the gentle hush. Hear how stillness carries speech. And as the forest settles into night, know that its countless voices keep watch, soft and green, around the cradle of your sleep. Drift upward from the dark lattice of roots. Feel the soil fall away, grain by grain, until you rise among stems and leaves, where air itself becomes a letter, inked with scent folded into night. Have you ever stepped into a garden at dusk and felt fragrance arrive before sight? A wave of jasmine, thick as velvet, clinging to your breath, turning the ordinary path home into a memory you cannot quite place. That is language, a sentence carried on the smallest particles of carbon. Flowers write those sentences with astonishing care. All day they wait, petals closed like shy hands, sugars pooling in hidden chambers. Then the sun slips west, and the air cools enough to hold a story. Stomata eyes open, letting clouds of benzenoids and terpenes drift out. To us, they read as perfume. To a night-flying moth, they are a beacon, glowing beneath the senses, promising nectar at the end of a long, velvet tunnel. In 2023, botanists in Zurich traced the plume of a single orchid. Within minutes, tiny sensors half a field away registered the exact chemical signature, a mimic of female wasp pheromone, tailored to lure a male that will leave disappointed, but dusted with golden pollen. Deception wrapped in sweetness, evolution as playwright, scent as dialogue. Each molecule is light enough to float, yet complex enough to tell direction, distance, intent. Linalool whispers, "Come closer, friend." Indole mutters, "Danger lives here." Even the color of a flower can adjust its script. A pale tube radiates farther than crimson velvet, because paleness reflects starlight, guiding nocturnal visitors who navigate by shadow. Consider the quiet genius in that timing. Release too early, and day winds shred the message. Release too late, and the courier moth has already passed. So the flower listens to temperature, to humidity, to the faint silver pull of moonrise. Its internal clock ticks like water on stone, marking the perfect moment to exhale. Researchers at the University of Queensland reported last spring that warming nights blur these carefully drawn hours. A hotter twilight lifts scent faster, disperses it thin, leaving pollinators uncertain, flowers unanswered. The guard. N speaks, but the letters smear. Somewhere, a bee circles in gentle confusion, searching for a fragrance now dissolved in heat. The world is rewriting its dictionary, and every blossom must learn new verbs. Yet tonight, where you rest, a single breath still gathers a library of stories. Inhale slowly. Notice the faint trace of wood, of greenery, even through closed windows. Those molecules glide down your throat, across warm alveoli, and exchange places with the carbon you no longer need. You become, for a moment, part of the narrative, a relay in the endless relay, sending what you cannot keep back into the darkened sky. If the air in your room feels still, imagine it turning ever so gently as unseen blossoms beyond the glass compose their nightly essays. Picture moth wings brushing the margins, carrying punctuation from bloom to bloom. Let the imagery settle on your chest, like soft paper warm from the press. Some languages are too slow for daylight. They require patience, a low pulse, eyes half closed. So lie back. Let fragrance, real or remembered, fill the spaces sorrow once occupied. No need to chase meaning. Just breathe and be breathed through. The story will carry itself toward dawn, line upon scented line, while you drift deeper, quiet as pollen on moonlit air. Somewhere in a dim greenhouse, a single frond waits beneath a lamp. You reach out, fingertip hovering, brush the leaf only lightly, and the entire stem folds inward, closing like green origami around a secret. This is Mimosa pudica, the touch-me-not. Its retreat is swift, less than half a heartbeat, yet it carries no muscle, no sinew, no nerve. What then has moved? Inside the slender stem, tiny chambers flood with ions. Potassium rushes out, water follows, and cells sag as pressure slips away. A leaf collapses, but beneath collapse is calculation. In 2024, researchers at the University of Bonn placed silver needles into mimosa stems and charted electrical pulses riding the leaf's veins. The signals looked eerily familiar. Spikes and rests, rhythms we once believed belonged only to brains. A plant, it seems, can send a message as clearly as a synapse can whisper across a gap. Does that mean a mimosa feels the touch? Here science grows quiet. Pain in animals is tied to nerves, to systems that shout danger into awareness. Plants have no brain to gather such signals into an ache. Yet they respond with purpose. Folding protects the delicate leaflets from hungry mandibles, or shakes water from a sudden rainfall. Perhaps the question is not do they hurt, but do they mind? What if pain is only one form of awareness, and awareness is far older than nerves? Think of the sensitive plant resting in darkness, folded tight like a sleeper. A drop of warm water, nothing more, might coax it open again. Leaves unfurling, pressure restored, as though the plant has taken a long breath and decided. The world is once more safe to touch. All across the plant kingdom, similar pulses flicker. A grass blade sliced by shears sends a wave of calcium, racing from stump to root. A silent alarm. Tomato vines wounded by caterpillars broadcast chemical cries that summon parasitic wasps, tiny guardians on gossamer wings. Defense can be as gentle as scent, as swift as electricity, as clever as partnership. So do plants experience something like fear? We cannot step inside their slow pulses to know. Yet the signals are undeniable, and the responses precise. If an organism changes itself to avoid harm, is that not a kind of feeling, written in sap instead of blood? Lie still a moment. Notice your own skin respond to the room. Gooseflesh rising against a draft. Eyes narrowing when light grows harsh. Your cells, too, speak in ions and thresholds. Life may differ in speed and shape, but the language of caution is ancient and shared. Let that thought settle. Release the need to label every sensation as either human or other. Imagine a forest at night, each trunk laced with slow voltage, each leaf listening for the smallest tremor. Not afraid exactly, simply awake to the world's touch. As you breathe out, feel your body ease like an unopened bud. The lamps of the greenhouse dim. Mimosa loosens, opens, ready for the faint promise of sunrise. And in that gentle spread of green, we glimpse the next mystery, how every leaf follows the hymn of light, turning with quiet devotion toward the sun that will soon arrive. Night thins into the palest gray. Somewhere beyond your curtains, the horizon takes a first, silent breath. In that breath, every leaf stirs, though you cannot see it yet. Because plants keep time inside their cells, ticking out the hours in loops of light-sensitive genes. Long before the sun lifts its rim, tiny photoreceptors already glow deep blue, sensing the faint scatter of dawn. They trigger waves of proteins that loosen stems, unfurl petals, unlock stomata like sleepy eyes. A meadow rises in gears so slow they feel like stillness. Yet each turn is precise. Consider the sunflower. By noon, you find it facing the blaze of south, steady as a compass. But at sunrise, the same head gazes east, and by twilight, it leans west, completing a silent arc that maps the sky. In 2024, biologists at UC Davis placed motion cameras around a field of young sunflowers. The reels, sped up 3,000 times, revealed a dance, stalks swaying in synchrony, leaves adjusting angle by angle, as though an invisible conductor raised a baton of gold. How do they know where light will be? Inside each stem, growth hormones called auxins drift toward shade, softening one side, stiffening the other. A gentle imbalance that bends the plant ever forward. By nightfall, the cycle resets. The flower slowly rewinds, ready to greet the next dawn in perfect posture. Smaller dramas play out within a single cell. Chloroplasts, those emerald engines, slide along tracks of protein, clustering under thin walls when light is dim, spreading wide when the glare grows fierce, much like you narrowing your eyes against noon. Last year, a team in Kyoto used fluorescent markers to watch this choreography. They found chloroplasts repositioning in minutes, avoiding sunburn the way you might shift under an umbrella. Yet rhythms are more than movement. They are promises. A bean vine trembles open at 6, closes at 6 again, even in total darkness. proving the clock is written inside, not dictated solely by the sky. And when city lights blur dusk into false day, the timing falters. A 2025 study from Helsinki showed streetlit maples delaying leaf drop by weeks, spending their sugar, weakening their winter chance. The night must be night for the clock to stay true. Think of your own cycles. The slow tilt from wake to sleep. The ebb of hunger. The sigh of lungs catching a deeper drag as evening settles. Your blood, too, keeps a schedule, guided by the same blue light cues that stir a fern. Life is rhythmic because the planet spins. Lie back and picture a forest at first light. Sap begins to climb, pulled by evaporating water high above. Millions of xylem tubes whisper upward like silver straws, lifting droplets toward the waiting leaves. The entire canopy exhales vapor, a mist even the smallest breeze can't quite carry away. That exhale cools the air, forms clouds, invites rain, a cycle inside the greater cycle. Plant and weather linked by breaths. Let that image rest upon your mind. Feel your own ribs rise, fall, rise. The same gentle sway as a flower greeting dawn. No hurry, only turning, only trusting the next hour to unfold. If you listen closely, perhaps you can sense the hush of chloroplasts sliding, the subtle reach of auxins into the shadows of your thoughts. Allow them. Let your body obey its inner metronome. The day outside may be bright or still unborn. Your clock knows the path. Follow it as a sunflower does. Patient, quiet, turning always toward the light you need. Even when your eyes are closed against the warm, unfolding sky. The sky brightens. Dew gathers in glassy beads along the rim of a quiet bog. You kneel, breathe in the scent of wet peat, and notice a small green mouth no wider than your thumb. It lies open, red-lined, still as a sketch. Two halves curve like the pages of a book waiting to close. This is the Venus flytrap, a hunter that never moves from its route, yet knows how to count. Watch the inside surface. 6 tiny hairs stand like sentries, 3 on each lobe. A drifting gnat brushes one hair. Nothing happens. The trap stays patient. A second touch within 20 seconds, and hinges snap shut with a hush soft as turning paper. Why 2? Because the plant guards its strength. Closing costs precious energy, as dear to a fly trap as breath is to you. In 2023, researchers at the Max Planck Institute recorded electrical bursts within the trap, each time a hair bent. One pulse, then another. A cellular ledger tallies the sparks. 2 signals trip the latch. If the insect thrashes, pulses mount to 3, 4, 5. Only after the 5th does the plant seal tight. Begin secreting enzymes. Begin the slow, silent meal. Think of that. A leaf that can count to 5. Not with neurons, but with waves of calcium and chard, rolling along green veins. Action potentials slower than ours, yet clear as distant bells. Each pulse means food is real. Without 5, digestion stays asleep, and the plant keeps its energy for another day. You might ask where the mind sits in such a body. There is no center. only many parts agreeing on a single truth, much like a flock turning in air. Intelligence here is distributed. A conversation in sap. The study also found a thrifty side to this predator. When soil nutrients ran low, traps closed faster, as if hunger sharpened reflex. When nitrate was plentiful, the traps grew lazy, letting more insects slip away unharmed. Energy budgeting, the scientists called it. But to you, kneeling by the bog, it feels like choice. Listen to your own pulse for a moment. Count its rhythm in your chest. 1, 2. Feel how awareness rides the numbers. The flytrap holds a similar beat, only slower, measured in seconds, not in heartbeats. Dawn lifts higher. Mist thins across the water. A mosquito lands on the trap's red carpet, taps a hair, then another. The lobes snap. Shadows overlap. Inside, the insect hum grows muffled. The plant tallies every twitch. Yet there is no violence here, only the steady economy of survival. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed. Let that lesson settle over you. To act only when the moment is true. To spend effort with care. To count before leaping. Feel your shoulders soften. Count your own breaths. 1, 2, 3. Notice how calm seeps in like clear water. Even stillness can be full of purpose. A quiet ledger balancing need and rest. The bug warms. Sunlight pearls across each closed trap. And deeper in the green, another mystery waits. Roots that speak through fungus. Trees that feed their kin. But for now, stay here, where a leaf keeps gentle arithmetic, where numbers and patience share the same slow breath, and where you, like the flytrap, may close your eyes when the count feels complete. Slip beneath the moss, down past beech roots and damp needles. Feel the soil thicken, cool, then glow with threads fine as moonspun silk. This is the hidden city, a tangle of fungal filaments called mycorrhizae, so thin they seep through grains of sand, so wide they can lace an entire hillside in slow silver light. A root tip brushes one strand. Sugars flow outward, phosphorus drifts in. Another root touches, and the strand forks, becoming bridge, marketplace, memory. For decades, researchers mapped these underground highways, tracing carbon that slipped from one tree into the veins of another. Early this year, forest ecologist Susan Simard and colleagues gathered that evidence, microscopy, DNA barcodes, isotope trails, into a single reply to critics, affirming that common mycorrhizal networks connect seedlings and elders alike, moving food, water, and whispered warnings under the leafleted dark. Yet science, like root and fungus, tangles with debate. Last July, a Guardian column noted how the Wood Wide Web charmed the world, and how some voices fear the story has outrun the data. It's poetry racing ahead of proof. But disagreement only deepens the mystery, reminding us that even among scholars, knowledge grows by exchange. Picture an old cedar, trunk furrowed, crown dim. It stands in shadow, starving for light. A young birch nearby drinks sun all afternoon. Through the fungal mesh, surplus sugar drifts from birch to cedar. Not charity, perhaps, but investment. For the cedar's deep roots will one day tap water the birch cannot reach. Trade without coin. Partnership stitched in hyphae. Now imagine a seedling, fragile, 2 leaves wide. Its roots are hair-thin, its future unsure. A mother spruce senses the infant's faint chemical plea. Nitrogen trickles across the web, like a lullaby delivered through soil. The sapling stiffens, greens survives. Are these acts kindness, or simply logic in another dialect? Survival written as reciprocity. Fungi take commission in every deal. Carbon to feed their endless threads. So the contract is threefold. Tree to tree, tree to fungus, fungus to forest. Researchers in 2024 used fluorescent dyes to watch nutrients pulse along hyphae. At barely a millimeter per hour. Slow as drifting snow, yet constant as tide. Patience again, the currency of green realms. Above ground, you hear none of this. Wind hisses, leaves shift, but the true traffic runs silent. Still, the network touches you. Every breath you draw owes, thanks to these secret markets. For trees fed well exhale more oxygen. And forests knit tight hold more rain. Some climatologists now model fungal links when forecasting clouds. Because a connected canopy cools the air more steadily than a lonely one. Pause. Feel the mattress beneath you. Imagine those threads under distant hills. Under city parks, even under sidewalks where stubborn maples split the paving. Life insists on connection. Let the thought ease your shoulders. You too are woven into unseen webs. Family, friends, places you have never met yet still inhale the carbon you release. Nothing in nature is truly solitary. Even a star moves with its galaxy. Breathe out long and slow. Picture hyphae glowing faintly with that exhale. Turning it into food, the forest will pass from root to root. In the dark soil, strangers receive your gift. And someday, perhaps in the sweet scent of a pine morning, the gift returns. Drift with that circular promise. Trade sorrow for rest, tension for quiet. Somewhere beneath real night. Fungus 3. Ads cross like gentle letters. And the forest, wide, patient listening, waits to write you back. Have you ever heard a leaf being eaten? Not with ears, but with the cool, steady hush beneath thought. The kind of listening that notices dust settle, or pulse flutter at the base of the throat. A caterpillar arrives, soft-bodied, hungry. Its mandibles scrape a half-moon bite. The leaf barely trembles, yet vibrations ripple through green tissue. Like the slow toll of a bronze bell underwater. Within the plant, tiny mechanoreceptors bend, translating that shiver into electricity. One wave, then another. Messages riding calcium currents toward distant cells. This is how a plant hears. No cochlea, no drum, only fibers tuned to danger. In 2025, ecologists showed that feeding vibrations alone, without a single tooth mark, prime Arabidopsis leaves to flood with anthocyanins and other flavonoid shields. A direct surge of chemical armor against mouths, yet unseen. A decade earlier, lasers in a Missouri lab revealed the same secret. Arabidopsis plants played recordings of caterpillar chewing, poured more mustard-spiced oils into their veins, but stayed calm when wind or harmless insect songs swept the leaf. They could tell predator from breeze, need from noise. Picture the scene in slow motion. Chewing vibrations drum a rhythm only plants remember. Cells at the wound edge stiffen, while distant tissues start brewing bitter glucosinolates. Invisible vapor slips into the air, an aromatic SOS inviting parasitic wasps, allies on transparent wings, to patrol the green corridors. Pause a moment, close your eyes, feel your own skin register the faint brush of fabric, the way heart beats steady when rooms grow quiet. Your nerves, too, decode vibration. Life everywhere translates touch into meaning. Now inhale. Notice the stillness in that breath. A hush wide as the space between stars. Somewhere on a midsummer night, a tobacco leaf vibrates beneath unseen jaws. No moonlight is required, only the tremor of appetite to waken chemical dreams. Plants do not run. They answer the world by transforming themselves, turning sweetness bitter, turning silence aromatic. Sound to them is more than music. It is weather, hunger, time. Let this drift around you like faint birdsong. Imagine forests layered with inaudible percussion. Grubs ticking in bark, rain stippling moss. Each frequency a phrase in the green lexicon. The canopy listens. Roots listen. Fungal threads carry the rumor deeper still. Breathe out slowly. Feel how air loosens the thoughts clenched behind your brow. The room may seem quieter now, because you are listening beneath the usual clamor, tuning to vibrations softer than speech. If danger ever brushes your life, may you also respond with measured grace. Not panic, but a quiet sharpening of inner defenses. A gathering of bittersweet wisdom around tender places. Somewhere beyond the window, night moths rustle wings. Leaves quiver at their passing, primed but unafraid. From that poised stillness, the next story will rise. Of roots that trade toxins for space. Of shadows where chemistry becomes silent conflict. For now, rest. Let the subtle hum of unseen jaws fade into distance, while your own pulse settles like dew on a patient leaf. Alert yet deeply, deeply calm. Mist clings to the forest floor. A hush so deep you can almost hear sap rise. Yet beneath this calm, a slow war wages. Plants against plants. Each leaf a quiet strategist. Start with the black walnut. Its branches spread generous shade, but its roots leak a molecule called juglone, a dark ink seeping into soil. Tomatoes planted too near wilt. Petunias yellow, as if the ground itself has turned against them. 2 months ago, botanists traced juglone's path, showing how it cripples rival roots, stealing water before thirst is even felt. This is allelopathy, chemical warfare in slow motion. No roar, no flames, just invisible signals that say not here, not beside me. Researchers last year examined wheat fields, finding phenolic acids oozing from sprouting grain, suppressing stubborn weeds in the rows between. The crop guards its future harvest by dimming the hopes of neighbors. A quiet calculus of light, space, and yield. Closer to home, sunflowers release allelochemicals too. A mild cocktail washing from fallen leaves. Grass beneath them thins, opening a ring where petals rain alone. Even beauty keeps borders. Yet allelopathy is not simply cruelty. In diverse meadows, rival scents can balance power, allowing many species to share one patch of light. Negative meets negative, and a strange harmony blooms. Pause. Feel the edge of your own space. The buffer of air, the comfort of a blanket. We too guard boundaries, though ours are built of custom and word. Not juglone. In the soil, toxins fade with time, broken by microbes, washed by rain. A lesson, even hostility is tempo. Rarely. A strategy for a moment, not a lifelong stain. Imagine roots intertwining below, each tip sensing chemistry like taste. A seedling probes, finds unfriendly flavor, turns aside, curls elsewhere, learning the map of danger etched in dirt. Night settles deeper. The walnut rests, but its invisible ink keeps writing. The wheat sleeps, yet its acids linger, holding the line until dawn. Conflict here is measured in seasons, not seconds. Let that slowness ease your thoughts. If competition must exist, may it follow this gentle pace, giving time for repair, for rain to cleanse, for new roots to seek a kinder path. Breathe out. Release any sharpness gathered today. Feel it sink, dilute, dissolve. Like juglone meeting a long, patient river. Somewhere under starlight, a seed stirs, finds a corridor unpoisoned, and begins its quiet climb toward sun. High above the forest floor, where light filters through shifting green, a leaf unfurls like the palm of a dream. Soft, wide, veined with promise. But this leaf remembers. It remembers drought, remembers cold, remembers insects that chewed through its kin. Not through scars, but through altered chemistry. A signature in proteins. A pattern in how genes awaken. This is plant memory. Not thought as we know it, but history woven into how a plant responds the next time the wind turns cruel. In 2023, scientists at the University of Cambridge studied Arabidopsis plants, subjected to repeated cold spells. They found that after the first frost, the plant adjusted slowly, but after the second, it prepared faster, as if it remembered the freeze. Not with a brain, but with molecules wrapped around DNA, like bookmarks in a thick green novel. This process is called epigenetics, a way for cells to mark certain genes as important, without rewriting the gene itself. It's how a tree knows to grow thicker bark after wildfires, how barley braces its grain after dry summers. Lessons held not in thought, but in structure. Memory as scaffolding. Imagine a leaf trembling slightly in a breeze. You might think it's reacting to the moment, but perhaps it's also echoing the past. A caterpillar once nibbled here. Now that region is quicker to flood with tannins. Not because it hurts, but because it knows. There's poetry in that, isn't there? That knowing does not require consciousness, only continuity. Just as your own skin toughens after sunburn, or your heartbeat speeds at familiar music. Plants respond to patterns, to rhythms, to change. A recent experiment in 2020 trained pea plants to associate light with a gentle breeze, a kind of Pavlovian drift. Over time, the plants grew toward the fan alone, anticipating light that had not yet arrived. A primitive, if this, then that. Prediction without awareness. Can we call that memory? Maybe not in the human sense, but it is still a kind of story, written in chemical ink, read by light, revised by weather. Let yourself rest into that idea, that you too carry memory not just in thought, but in the body, in how your breath shortens in cold, how your shoulders shift in crowded rooms. Memory does not need language. It can live in the pulse of roots, in the wideness or tightness of a stem, in when a flower opens or chooses not to. Breathe in, and with your breath, imagine each leaf around you as a page, holding lessons in every crease. A journal not of words, but of weather, hunger, silence. Somewhere deep in forest twilight, an old oak lifts its canopy against the oncoming storm, bark thickened by centuries of rain. It has no mind, but it remembers. And you, quiet listening, do too. Settle into that quiet. Let the memories soften, as green does under first light. The next story will take us into dark again. But tonight, this leaf holds everything. The path narrows. Soft earth gives way to tangled roots. And ahead, something climbs. Not with legs or longing, but with touch. A vine, slender, searching. Its tip sways ever so slightly, testing the air like a fingertip in a darkened room. It doesn't rush. It listens. This is thigmotropism, the way plants sense contact and choose direction, not blindly, but with exquisite care. You've seen it before. Morning glories spiraling up fences, cucumber tendrils coiling around twine, each curve a response, each loop a soft decision. In 2024, a team in Italy filmed bean plants in complete silence, freed from wind or obstacles. The vines still reached outward in slow arcs, as if scanning for a hand to hold. Once they found a pole, growth patterns changed. The plant didn't just cling. It tightened, adjusted, as though rethinking its grip. And this, without a brain, without eyes, only cells stretched toward light and pressure. What guides them? Tiny changes in cell pressure and hormone flow. Auxins pooling on one side of the stem, loosening cell walls just enough for a lean, a curve, a clasp, and what's more, vines remember where they've touched. A tendril once curled around a branch will recoil if that spot is touched again too soon, as if overstimulated. This is called habituation, a learning of limits. The sensitive tendrils of peas, morning glories, and passion flowers know the difference between something to climb and something that yields. Like another vine, they avoid each other, preferring sturdy hosts. Even here, preference whispers. Let that thought wrap around you gently. You too reach toward things, ideas, people, certainty, and you too learn what holds and what falls away. There's no shame in seeking. Even plants stretch in darkness, guided only by touch and the memory of gravity. Close your eyes. Picture a slow spiral, a tendril wrapping a trellis, tightening with patience. No haste, only intention. Somewhere in the humid air of a summer field, a vine coils in moonlight, not for beauty, but for survival. To rise above the grass, to see more light, to breathe in the high breezes. Imagine that you are that vine. Your thoughts stretch slowly forward, feeling for kindness, for direction. And when you find it, you hold, not too tight, not forever, but just enough to climb. Let your limbs soften, your spine uncurl like stem from soil. Let gravity feel gentle tonight. You are still growing, still reaching, even in rest. Somewhere unseen, a tendril finds its anchor, and something inside you, quiet, tired, but steady, knows exactly how to hold on. The wind has stilled. Even the grasses seem to listen. And there, under a pale sky, an entire field leans just slightly. Not from wind, but from thirst. This is what drought feels like to a plant. Not dryness alone, but tension deep within. Inside the stem, a network of hollow tubes called xylem pulls water from root to leaf. A column so fragile, it can break from a single air bubble. That break has a name: embolism. Not unlike in human vessels, a sudden loss of flow. The plant chokes silently, though we rarely notice. But recently, we've begun to listen. In 2023, researchers placed microphones beside drought-stressed plants. What they heard were tiny clicks, sharp ultrasonic pulses. Each time the water columns snapped, it was as if the plants were crying out, not in pain, but in rupture, an acoustic fingerprint of thirst. Tomato stems, tobacco leaves, cornfields shimmering in silence, all of them clicking softly beneath the threshold of human hearing. Now, with special sensors, we can translate those clicks into graphs, patterns, warnings. Some farmers have begun using these whispers to time irrigation not by soil, but by the voice of the crop itself. Let your breath ease. Imagine your lungs, too, as tubes of soft green, moisture rising with each inhale, sinking again as you exhale. A tide of comfort. But for the plant, there is no breath, only the relentless pull of evaporation. Leaf pores yawning open to drink light, and bleeding water in return. To cope, some plants close their stomata, tiny valves in the leaf skin. The leaf wilts not in failure, but in preservation, a surrender to survive. Yet this survival has limits. Extended drought shrinks the plant's vessels. Future growth narrows. Even the next generation, seeds still forming, may carry the memory of this season's thirst, embedded in the way they sprout. You may recognize that feeling, how hardship shapes you subtly, how even rest carries the shape of old effort. But here's the gentle truth. Most plants recover. After rain, xylem repairs. Leaves uncurl. Click cease. The silence that follows is not emptiness, but healing. So if your spirit feels dry tonight, know that this too is part of the cycle. Even trees must wait for clouds. Even flowers bow before rising again. Somewhere a willow droops beside a shrinking stream. Its roots stretch deeper, searching cool clay far below. And though it clicks in the dark, the tree endures. Close your eyes. Let your worries soften like soil after a storm. You are not breaking, only bending, only conserving the energy you need for the next bloom. In the next breath, let the silence return, not from absence, but from strength held gently in reserve. Just like the forest, just like you, the light is soft now, slipping sideways through branches, catching the edges of petals not yet open. But one bloom waits, bright, strange, impossible to ignore. An orchid, delicate, yes, but beneath the beauty, a quiet deception unfolds. This is the world of mimicry, where flowers lie with exquisite precision, not to harm, but to survive. Take Ophrys epiphyra, the bee orchid. Its petals curl and shimmer like the body of a female bee. Fine hairs catch the sun just so. The scent, a perfect match for bee pheromone. To a male bee, this is not a flower. It is an invitation. He lands, attempts to mate, and leaves froze, traded, but dusted in pollen. He will try again, and again, carrying the orchid's future from one illusion to the next. In 2024, botanists in southern France recorded a new variation, a wasp orchid that matched its pollinator so precisely. Even high-resolution imaging struggled to distinguish petal from insect. Evolution had tuned its lie so finely that honesty became irrelevant. This is floral mimicry, pollination without reward. The plant gives no nectar, only shape, only scent, only suggestion. Is it manipulation, or just survival in disguise? In ecosystems crowded with color and need, not all can afford sweetness. Other orchids use traps, slipper-shaped blooms that catch bees, forcing them to crawl past pollen sacs on the way out. The flower ensures its future by making exit a lesson. Then there are those that imitate not insects, but rot. Corpse flowers reek of decay, drawing in flies seeking carrion. They crawl across the bloom, lay eggs that won't hatch, leave carrying pollen anyway. Deception again. But in nature, success rewrites morality. Let that idea rest on your chest a while. That not every gift is true, and not every lie is cruel. Sometimes trickery sustains the world. You too wear masks, gentle ones, to be brave, to be kind, to get through the day. And sometimes those masks carry seeds, helping you bloom when you least expect it. Picture the orchid again, still glowing, poised like a dancer in the understory. No movement, yet every curve rehearsed, every note of scent calibrated. It does not need to chase its future. It lures it. Take a breath. Feel how even stillness can be powerful. Not every success requires striving. Some arrive when you craft your presence with quiet care. Outside your window, flowers wait in darkness. Their perfume rises not for you, but you may breathe it anyway. Truth or illusion, it is still beautiful. Let it carry you into the next moment, where petals unfold and the night holds space for even the strangest bloom. Far above the forest floor, a hush deeper than silence lingers between the branches. Not emptiness, but coordination. An invisible rhythm pulses through trunks and petals alike, like a hidden symphony tuned not to sound, but to time. This is massed flowering, when entire forests bloom at once, as if answering a secret signal. Thousands of trees, separated by hills, rivers, decades of silence, suddenly erupt into blossoms together. Why now? Why all at once? In the highlands of Borneo, the dipterocarps, tall, stately trees, flower only every 5 to 10 years. Then, overnight, their crowns explode into pale gold. A spectacle seen by few humans, but recorded in satellite imagery as a change in canopy color. A forest glowing. In 2023, ecologists linked these blooms to slight temperature drops following El Niño patterns. But temperature alone is not enough. The trees must also listen. Through light, moisture, internal clocks passed through centuries. It's not a trigger. It's a buildup of readiness. And when it comes, everything begins. Flowers open. Pollen drifts like golden fog. Fruit forms en masse, feeding every insect, rodent, and bird. Too much for predators to consume. The strategy is clear. Overwhelm the system. Let some seeds survive, not by hiding, but by flooding the world with life. It is a kind of generosity born from scarcity. Even temperate forests do it. Oaks, beeches, and pines align their cycles. A massed year of acorns means fat squirrels, and trees betting on the future. This isn't coordination in the way of animals. There's no signal barked across branches, only slow calibration of sugar, daylight, heat. A long conversation carried in leaf and root, where agreement takes years. Pause. Imagine what it would mean to act only when the time is right, even if that time is once a decade. To trust that your moment will come, not through force, but through alignment. The forest does not rush. It waits, and then it acts as one. Let that rhythm echo in your breaths. Slow, patient, prepared. You are not late, only not yet. Outside, perhaps, a branch stirs. A petal begins to loosen, not because it must, but because all things around it have begun to move. The cue is subtle, but the bloom is total. Let your body follow that sense. Not instruction, but invitation. To rest, to open. In time, somewhere across 100 miles of trees, blossoms are rising. Together, because the forest knows that some music must be played. All at once, night deepens across the city. Street lamps flicker, windows glow. But beneath the hum of neon and traffic, life in green persists, not in jungles or pristine meadows, but between bricks, along gutters, climbing fences rusted with time. This is the quiet endurance of urban plants. The dandelion wedged between sidewalk slabs, the ivy tracing graffiti on an abandoned wall, the sapling rising from a rooftop gutter, roots tangled in forgotten dust. You may not notice them. Few do, yet they adapt with grace, threading survival through the cracks of human haste. In 2024, a survey across 5 major cities, New York, Tokyo, Karachi, Sao Paulo, and Paris, revealed over 1,800 species of wild plants thriving in unmanaged corners. Many evolved thicker cuticles to resist car exhaust, or altered their flowering times to match artificial light. Evolution doesn't pause for pavement. Some plants, like the London plane tree, have learned to filter air heavy with soot. Tiny hairs on their leaves catch particulates, protecting the lungs of people passing below. These trees don't just survive. They claim, they listen, they give. And below it all, roots twist through foundation cracks. Microbes stir in compacted earth, and mycorrhizae, those fungal threads, persist in shadows under concrete. We imagine cities as endings, but to green life, they are only puzzles. Complicated terrain, new maps to draw. Even light pollution has become a signal. Some urban flowers bloom later, or never close at all. Petunias near street lamps now glow well past midnight, offering nectar to moths that have adapted to the glow. It is a strange ecosystem, born of noise and light, yet still full of listening. Let your breath ease. You too are navigating harsh terrain. Traffic of thought, static of memory, the glare of sleepless hours. But still you grow, even when unseen, even between the cracks. Picture the edge of a parking lot. At first, only gravel and glass. But look closer. Clover peeks through. A vine begins its spiral. Moss dampens the edges of the curb. Softness returns, not all at once, but insistently. That's how recovery begins. Not in silence, but in small, persistent greening. Let yourself rest in that truth. You don't need to bloom where others see you. You only need to root where you are, to find light in whatever direction it leans, to unfold, even if no one applauds. Outside, in the sodium haze of a city night, a single fern stretches beside a drain pipe. Unseen, unbothered, alive. So are you, deep in the green dusk of the Amazon. A whisper circles among tangled trunks and fallen fruit. The whisper of a tree that walks. That's the story anyway. Locals call it the walking palm, Socratia exoriza, a tall, thin tree perched on stilts of exposed roots, sprawling in all directions like the legs of a spider, too slow to flee, but never truly still. Some believe that when light shifts, the palm grows new roots toward the sun, while old ones rot and pull away. Step by step, a journey measured in inches per year. It sounds like myth, a fable in bark and moss, and yet not entirely false. In 2023, botanists revisited the walking palm's secrets. While it doesn't walk like an animal, it does restructure itself with intention. If erosion exposes one side, new stilt roots form on the opposite. The tree recenters, rebalances, slowly nudging itself toward better footing. So, in a sense, it does move. Not to escape, but to endure. There's poetry in that. Movement without laving. Change without running. Let that idea unfurl in you. What if forward didn't mean far? What if progress was a matter of adjusting your roots, not chasing the horizon? Some trees, like redwoods, stand where they began for over 1,000 years. Others, like the walking palm, let go of one part to strengthen another. Neither is wrong. Both are surviving. Imagine the rainforest floor beneath you. Dim, damp, dotted with the litter of yesterday's storms. Above, the canopy churns with parrots and wind. Below, the roots respond. Quietly, purposefully. To be rooted doesn't mean stuck. It means aware. It means you feel every tilt of the soil, every change in light. It means you can choose which parts of you to keep and which to let fall away. Now close your eyes. Feel the pull of the earth under your back. Let your own spine become a trunk. Your breath the rustle of slow-growing leaves. If some part of you feels off balance lately, know that you're allowed to shift. Not suddenly, not loudly, but like the palms, reaching toward better light, one patient root at a time. Outside, in the greenest shadows, a tree steadies itself, and though no one sees the movement, the forest feels it. So does the light. So do you. Time grows thick in the middle of the forest. Light filters down in soft shafts, catching dust, pollen, fragments of memory. And there, standing still as stone, are trees older than countries, older than written language. They do not speak, but they remember. Take the bristlecone pine, high in the White Mountains of California. Its bark twists like driftwood hardened by time. Some are over 4,800 years old, alive when pyramids were new, when stars had different names. Scientists count their years in rings, each one a thread of drought, frost, some are fire. And even when a branch dies, another grows beside it. The tree becomes a puzzle of persistence, a body that refuses to fall all at once. In 2024, dendrochronologists found that one ancient bristlecone, long thought dead, was still transporting water in a single ribbon of tissue, no wider than a coin's. That sliver was enough. A pulse of green at the crown, defying wind, rot, and gravity. Now turn to the ginkgo, a living fossil. Leaves shaped like hand fans, fluttering on branches that once shaded dinosaurs. After Hiroshima, 6 ginkgo trees near the blast center sprouted new buds within weeks. Their bark scorched, roots scorched, but not their will. In a 2023 study, researchers traced ginkgo genetics and found stunning resistance to environmental stress. UV damage, soil toxicity, heat. Somehow, the ginkgo absorbs the insult, repairs itself, and continues unchanged, like a sentence spoken in a forgotten dialect. That still makes perfect sense. These trees are not just survivors. They are witnesses. Imagine what a 5,000-year-old pine has seen. The rise and fall of empires, the migration of birds, the drift of stars. It does not judge. It simply holds space. Let that image settle on your breath. A tree motionless, yet thick with time, and you lying still, feeling each inhale thread back through years you've lived, moments you've survived. You too are a witness, even in silence, even in stillness. There's a comfort in knowing some lives stretch so far, that not everything blooms, fades, and vanishes. Some stay, not untouched, but enduring. Outside, somewhere beyond this room, an old oak sways gently. Its acorns scatter, its trunk groans, but it stands. And you, tonight, need not be anything more than still, than here, than rooted in the moment you're in. Let the years fall away like needles in autumn. You are not hurrying. You are not failing. You are a long story still being told. Breathe. Rest. Let the old trees keep watch tonight. Night has thickened, settling like velvet across canopy and stone. The forest exhales, long, slow, steady. And in the hush beneath it, something begins. Not a rustle, not a bloom, but a shift in intention. A yearning almost. The path to freedom. In ancient Rome, among villas and marble halls, slaves once tended gardens full of sacred groves. Olive trees, grapevines, cypress. Each plant obeyed the sun. But the men and women who worked the soil dreamed of obeying only themselves. Freedom for a Roman slave was rare, but not impossible. It could arrive quietly, not through escape, but through years of service, small earnings saved, or the unexpected kindness of a master's will. And so too in the plant world. There are those that begin in bondage, roots confined in rocky soil, light blocked by the towering limbs of older trees. But somehow, they find a path. A young sapling born in shade learns to wait, to read the angles of falling leaves, the gaps in the canopy that may one day open. It bends without breaking, conserves its sugars, and climbs only when the path is true. This is phototropism, the turning of growth toward light, a kind of longing, measured in millimeters, not desperation, but direction. In 2025, a study from Kyoto traced young birch trees. Over 10 years in a dense grove. Only a few made it to the canopy, but those that did had shown a peculiar skill. They bent with subtlety, avoiding thicker branches, twisting through darkness, toward the promise of sky. They had chosen their paths, not with mind, but with memory and motion, a kind of self-liberation. Let this rest on your chest. That freedom need not arrive as a shout. It can unfold like a vine, unseen but unstoppable. A decision repeated over days, until one day, you rise into light. Close your eyes. Imagine a narrow shaft of sun breaking through treetop. It doesn't flood the forest, just a single beam. Enough. A seedling catches it. Begins. This is not a revolution. It is a quiet escape. From shadow, from limitation, toward breath, toward self. And so you breathe now. In slowly, out fully, each breath widening a little space inside you. A room where your roots may shift, where your limbs may stretch, not because they're told, but because they're ready. Somewhere far below a tower of oak, a tiny stem arcs toward that single shimmer of light. Its path is not easy, but it is its own. And that, at last, is freedom. The hour grows late. Cool air gathers in hollows and cups of leaves. Above, the canopy darkens, softening into a dome of breathing green. And now, as if the forest itself exhales, the plants begin to rest. Yes, rest. Because even plants, those still, slow forms we so often overlook, have a night, a rhythm, a kind of sleep. Not with eyelids, not with dreams, but with silence, with folding, with letting go. This is nyctanasti, a gentle word for the moves. Mints of plants at night, leaves close, petals fold inward. Stomata, those tiny mouths, shut tight, holding in moisture like secrets. You've seen it, perhaps, in a field of clover drooping at dusk, or in the prayer plant on your windowsill, its leaves rising in evening light, as if in thanks. Inside each cell, clock genes tick quietly, marking time in protein pulses, not bound to sunlight alone, but internal, ancestral, calibrated over eons. Even in perfect darkness, a bean sprout will still know when to sleep. In 2023, botanists in Norway placed rows of barley under constant light, and yet the plants still rested. Their photosynthesis slowed at intervals. Their growth pulsed in waves. The rhythm was within them, not just above. Some trees shift their sugar transport at night, sending carbohydrates not to leaves, but downward, to roots, to storage, to prepare for what tomorrow might bring. A form of dreaming, perhaps, not in images, but in structure. A rearranging of purpose, a sorting of effort. And flowers. Oh, the flowers sleep too. Moonflowers open only when dusk arrives. Evening primroses bloom in silence. Nightshade drinks the stars. And by dawn, all will fold again. Not with sorrow, but with grace. Let that grace settle in your breath. Feel how your own body begins to slow. Blood thickening slightly in your limbs. Temperature dipping. Thoughts loosening their grip. You are part of this rhythm. You always have been. Even the skin of your fingertips responds to the dark. Slightly cooler, slightly still. Outside your window, a world of plants prepares for slumber. not as escape, but as alignment. Rest is not weakness. It is strategy. It is survival. It is sacred. So fold yourself gently into the quiet. Let your thoughts become leaves, closing without resistance. Let your worries become petals, drawing inward to the center, where only stillness lives. Somewhere in the hush beneath stars, a forest sleeps. A dandelion folds in moonlight. A maple closes its 1,000 green hands. And you are exactly where you need to be. Still, safe, part of everything that rests. The world is dark now, not just with night, but with that deep inner stillness that arrives when all motion has softened to breath. And somewhere in a quiet field or forest edge, raindrops begin to fall. Not many, just a few, cool, round, deliberate. And with each tap against a leaf, a message is delivered. Because plants feel rain, not as weather, but as change. Every drop is pressure, a tiny percussion on the skin of the plant. And those signals don't go unnoticed. They ripple outward, activating genes, prompting responses. In 2023, researchers at Lund University in Sweden discovered that even gentle rainfall triggers immediate defense. Leaves exposed to rain quickly began producing compounds, typically used to fight bacteria and fungus. Why? Because for a plant, rain doesn't only mean water. It means danger may follow. Spores mold, pathogens carried on wind and mist. So rain is both gift and warning. A dual language, received with open pores, but cautious chemistry. On the surface of the leaf, cells shift, waxy coatings adjust, tiny hair-like structures redirect water flow, steering droplets away from vulnerable tissue. All of this without panic, only process, only care. And in the soil below, roots reach up, not down, eager to catch the first trickles before they vanish again. Some plants extend fine rootlets in hours, just to drink more deeply from a single storm. Think of that effort, not frantic, but prepared, always ready to receive what the world might offer, even if it comes cold and sudden. Pause now. Can you hear the echo of rain in your own body? Your breath falling soft and rhythmic. Your pulse a quiet drumbeat under skin. You too are shaped by weather, by days that wash away old thoughts, nights that soften you into reflection. Let yourself be like a leaf tonight. Receive only what you need. Let the rest roll off, cool and clean and gone. Somewhere outside, on a rooftop or hill, raindrops trace their way along petal and stem. And each one carries more than water. It carries a reminder that change is always falling, and that even the smallest surface knows how to receive it. So rest now, open in the quiet way of leaves. Let your defenses rise just enough to protect what matters. Let your thoughts sink like roots into the dark, and let the rain, real or remembered, become part of your rhythm. A drop, a breath, a soft return to stillness. The rain has passed. Its hush lingers on the leaves, gathering in slow-moving beads along stems and veins. The forest holds its breath, as if waiting for what comes after the blessing. And in this wet silence, new growth begins, but not always where you expect it. Sometimes, life begins with death. When a mighty tree falls, its trunk cracks, moss G. Others, fungi bloom like stars across rotting bark. But beneath that decay, a nursery awakens. This is called a nurse log, a fallen giant becoming cradle and cradleboard. For saplings, seedlings, insects, even small creatures that shelter inside its hollowed core. The death of one becomes the life of many. In 2024, ecologists in the Pacific Northwest measured growth rates of young trees sprouting from nurse logs versus bare forest floor. Those rooted in wood, already softened by fungi, already fed by old roots, grew twice as quickly. The past nourishes the future, even when the past has split open and fallen silent. Let that image settle in you. A tree tall, powerful, falls, and still, it gives. The bark breaks down into humus, spongy and warm. Nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, calcium, release in slow, perfect timing. Seeds caught in crevices sprout with protection from wind, shade from sun. A nurse log doesn't just feed, it shelters, and it remembers. Each ring in the wood carries years of storms, of birds nesting, of moss curled beneath antlers in winter. And now, it watches over new shoots, green and trembling, reaching toward the same sky it once touched. You may feel something of that within yourself. Old parts fallen, old beliefs broken, and yet, those fallen pieces feed your growth. What once seemed ruin may now be soft soil. Close your eyes. Imagine your body as forest. Let the heavy trunks of memory lie down. Let the moss come. Let the new sprouts rise through the quiet places. No need to rush. Decay is slow, and from that slowness, something tender always finds its way upward. Somewhere in the shaded woods, a log splits under the weight of rain. Inside its heart, a seed stirs, and by morning, a single leaf will unfurl, born not despite the fall, but because of it. You too are made of beginnings, wrapped in endings, and tonight, in this gentle dark, that truth is enough. A hush lingers beneath the trees, as if the forest itself is remembering something, not with thought, but with rhythm. And deep within the underbrush, a plant begins its quiet transformation. It is nearing the end now. The cycle of seasons has turned, and with it comes change. Not sudden, but slow, like the lowering of a curtain at dusk. Some leaves yellow, others curl inward, not from failure, but from intention, because letting go for a plant is as vital as growing. In 2023, botanists in Finland observed how deciduous trees prepare for winter, not just by dropping leaves, but by carefully reabsorbing what matters: chlorophyll, sugars, nitrogen, pulled inward and stored, like memories folded into the bark. Only the structure is shed. The wisdom remains. This is senescence, a graceful exit, a preparation, an act of survival dressed in gold and rust. The forest floor fills with what was once above. Leaves settle like letters never sent, each one a record of light gathered, storms endured. And though they fade the soil. Next spring's life begins in this gentle surrender. Let that echo in you. You've shed things too. Ideas, roles, seasons of yourself that once stood tall, now quietly resting behind you. That's not failure. That's process. That's truth. Close your eyes. Feel what your body has chosen to release, perhaps without you even noticing. Old tension, a goal no longer needed, a hurt no longer sharp. These things fall, and in their fall, they make room. Somewhere in a northern wood, a birch leaf drifts in the breeze, its last journey a slow spiral to the ground. It lands among others, a quiet reunion. Together they begin again, not in growth, but in giving. Even in death, plants remain generous. Even in endings, they prepare for what's next. So rest now. Let the falling continue. Without resistance. You don't have to hold what no longer serves you. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to return. Do yourself. And just as trees do not mourn the leaf, you do not need to mourn the versions of you that the seasons have gently carried away. Somewhere the ground is soft with leaf fall, and under that softness, a root drinks deeply, already dreaming of the spring. The stars hang low tonight, unmoving, unworried, watching the forest exhale its final waking breath. Beneath their quiet gaze, the plants are still, but not lifeless, not done, only changed. What happens to a plant when its long arc of life nears the end? Not in seasons, but in years, in decades, in centuries. Some trees die standing, others crumble slowly, a branch at a time. But some, just a few, seem to prepare. In the case of the Agave americana, the century plant, a single towering bloom erupts. Only once in its life. It grows for 30 years, 40, sometimes more. Then, in a single summer, it sends up a stalk, 10 feet tall or more, covered in golden blossoms. Bees arrive, moths circle, seeds fall, and then the plant dies. Its last act is not decay, it is legacy. In 2025, researchers in Oaxaca monitored the soil chemistry around agave that had bloomed and passed. They found rich bursts of potassium and phosphorus, spreading outward in a perfect circle. Even in death, the plant fed its kin. Other species follow a slower, quieter path. Old oaks begin to hollow, not as rot, but as refuge. Bats roost in their ribs. Owls nest in their cavities. Insects carve stories along their inner walls. And the tree, it lives on, not in sap, but in shelter, a body-turned sanctuary. Let this idea ease into your breath, that your worth may someday be found, not in motion, but in presence, that you might offer safety, not because of what you do, but because of who you've been. Some plants leave behind runners, threads of root that sprout daughters, long after the parent is gone. Others leave seeds sealed in pods that wait years for fire, flood, or time. Sleep, then begin. You don't need to worry about being remembered. The plants do not. They trust their patterns, their scattering, their soil. Close your eyes. Feel your own legacy stir inside you. Not a monument, but a whisper, a way of being that shaped the world more softly than it knew. Somewhere under a canopy heavy with dew, a flower closes for the last time. But just beyond it, a seedling rises, never knowing the one who fed its roots, never needing to, because what matters always returns, quietly, naturally, like spring after frost, like light after sleep. And so, you rest now, not as an end, but as a beginning hidden in stillness. Let it come. Let it carry you. You've grown enough for tonight. The forest sleeps, utterly, completely. Its pulse has quieted. Its breath is long and low. Above, the stars are steady. Below, every leaf, every root has stilled into rest. And so have you, here at the edge of the story, wrapped in the soft dark of your own breath. Not alone, not forgotten, but folded gently into the rhythm of green life. Tonight we've wandered slowly through whispering seeds, counting leaves, listening to flowers lie, and watching vines reach like quiet thinkers towards something warmer, brighter, more alive. We've heard the forest speak, in scent and signal, in silence and sound too high for the ear. We've watched it wait, bend, feed its kin, and let go when the season asked. And through it all, one truth returned again and again. Stillness is never empty. It is full of choosing, full of knowing, full of care. Even now, as you lie still, eyes soft, thoughts floating like pollen, there is movement within you, growth too slow to see, healing too quiet to name. You are not separate from this green world. You are threaded into it, breath to breath, root to rib, longing to light. Somewhere beyond the walls of this room, a seed stirs beneath moonlit soil, not because it's time, but because it feels that it soon will be. It doesn't rush. It trusts. Let yourself do the same. No more reaching tonight. No more wondering. Just a stillness. Just rest. You've made space. You've listened. You've remembered what it means to move slowly, to change quietly, to begin again and again, without ever leaving. The story sleeps now. It folds into itself like a petal at dusk, its voice trailing off into green silence. You may follow it, or stay here a while longer, safe in the shelter it offered. There is no hurry, no end, only this: a breath, a leaf, a life that listens, and you, still, soft enough